Welcome, y'all. Thank you for being here and for this conversation. Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Let's start with this. The question that I kind of raised at the beginning, you got to get people here. Pretend you're on the telephone with a recruit and give me your 30-second pitch on why I should move to Birmingham. Who wants to start?
Can I start?
Go ahead, Barbara. Well, I would say that the first thing is that we really listen at Chalker to what is important to them and try to address the few items that they talk about and tell them something about what is here in Birmingham. I would say my elevator speech is, for many, this can be a city of opportunity. We're a mid-sized city, and I think that can play well for people that are coming from larger cities to have opportunities and to show their talent, not in a big, in a big ocean, but in something smaller. We are a city where the natural resources are very accessible, and I think that that's very important. And the other thing that I talk about more, I guess, when they're here is how businesses love to collaborate, and they are very helpful with spouses and recruits that are considering Birmingham.
Gotcha.
We share a lot of the same information. Typically, I'm recruiting lawyers, sometimes law students to come and work at our firm. And what we share with them is that Birmingham offers compelling career opportunities and opportunities to engage in the community. I jokingly tell people there's a 5K every weekend. So if that's your jam, you can go find your running group. If you're interested in being involved on community boards or going to concerts, there's opportunities for that. Because we are a mid-sized city, you have the big city opportunities, but still have the opportunity to run into Publix and to see someone that you know.
I do the same thing with our law students. I talk a lot about the diversity here and how there's diversity of thought, there's diversity of resources and things to do, a lot of different neighborhoods, a lot of different cultures, and something that I find interesting in my neighborhood. We have 2 gay couples, 2 African American couples, an Asian couple, and families, and you can raise families here and be and do and be yourself, and that's something that I think is great about Birmingham. It is a place where you can be yourself.
Does that surprise people when you tell them?
I think it does surprise people.
That gets to the misperceptions about Birmingham. And we all know people from elsewhere in the country who've maybe never been here and have a certain image of Birmingham. How do you counter that? And how big a challenge is that to your work?
I think that we try to find people in our law firm, in our community, whom they can identify with. And that's so much of our recruiting is finding like-minded people. And I think that we, at our firm and in the community, and whether it's in church or synagogue or different places, we find people that they can connect with. And that is the real sticking point.
I think that's vitally important, is that you look at the whole family or the partner or spouse of the recruit as well, and finding, as you just said, finding those opportunities for them to feel connected to us and to the community can make really all the difference in the world. Because when you make those connections for your potential recruit, it gives them the sense, oh, this could be a home. This could be home for me. And it also, Birmingham, we want to push that narrative that we want talent to come here. We want you to come here and bring your talent to our city. And so when we reach out and have people in the community and in the business community meet with recruits or their partners or spouse, that is one of the biggest impressions that they have, is the willingness of people to meet with them.
It sounds like, it goes well beyond surveying someone's resume and background professionally, but in terms of what their spouse is like? What
Oh,
what their kids
absolutely.
are into, those kinds of things, yeah.
Right. I mean, we had a recruit whose child worked with therapy horses. And so we researched it and took them out to Red Barn so that the child could experience being at Red Barn and trying to see how that, how he related to that compared to where he was before. I mean, those are just vitally important. And I think the pandemic has even enhanced people's awareness that they want to feel connected in their community, as well as in their business culture. So,
You obviously work for law firms. Barbara, describe for people who might not know a little more about your firm, who you represent, and what your work is like.
so I just start off by saying we are not a search firm, so we don't find the talent. But our mission is that we want to be innovative and bring the best and the brightest to Birmingham. And so our team works collaboratively, and we work with holistically with the recruit and whoever would be moving with that recruit to Birmingham. And we think it takes us about 20 to 24 hours to plan one day with us. We're that detailed. And we started with UAB as being our first, and they're our largest client, but we've worked with many other institutions in Birmingham as well. And we've been able to increase their talent, getting their talent. Some at UAB think about triple the success rate. So it's been very meaningful work for us. But we have about 60% of our recruits are of diverse backgrounds. And so we go all in making sure that they can live a connected life, as well as following up with them after they move here.
And walk us through what that looks like. How long does that take? How much contact do you have with the recruit? How much time do you spend kind of learning their background and their desires?
Right. Well, we have an initial conversation with them, and that gives us an idea of what we can start planning for them. We may spend several days with them, anywhere between 1 day and 3 days with them on their visit. And every visit subsequently, we work with them, as well as after they accept the job. But we pull in people, we pull in people from business and the community. We have something called Connect Birmingham. It's our network of companies and institutions for our spousal network. So if your spouse is looking for a job, we can pretty much, reach out. And the business community is so excited about talent and bringing people here, and they really go out of their way to at least meet with them. I think Protective Life has probably worked with more spouses than I could even say. So
Yeah.
it's been important.
And Stephanie and Rebecca, law firms, I assume y'all are making visits to law schools, looking for associates, looking for that talent out there. Describe a little bit about just kind of that routine and what your work is like.
We have about 45 law students who will join us this summer. And talking about our Birmingham Summer Associate Program, we give them real substantive work to try to figure out what it's really like to practice at our firm, what is our culture like. We also try to show them what it's like to live in Birmingham. So we plan events at Jones Valley Teaching Farm and at the new pickleball courts in downtown and City Walk in downtown Birmingham, because we want them to see what it's like to live in our city, and not just a particular area, but all over the city, and different events, different things that we can show them to really showcase the city.
Similarly, we recruit from law schools where we go on campus and interview folks. And you had mentioned perceptions about Birmingham. I think many of us have probably heard the quote that proximity changes perceptions. And so one of the things that we most enjoy is bringing those candidates to Birmingham, bringing them to our our newly renovated office spaces, bringing them to downtown, showcasing our 5-star and quaint restaurants, getting them to events like baseball games, the football stadium, where they can envision their lives here in the city.
Right.
We also recruit pre-law students who are not yet in law school, so that we're already giving them exposure to the city. And we have lateral recruiting, where we're recruiting individuals from other cities and other firms to come and work in our offices as well.
Every organization, every smart organization wants a diverse workforce. People of color who haven't been to Birmingham, and obviously, people of my generation, I think it's the images of 63, and is that on their minds when you talk to them and you approach them about Birmingham, the history here? And is it on their minds in a positive way? This is where civil rights happened, or in a negative way?
I would say it's definitely top of mind.
Yeah.
And if I'm talking to a racially diverse candidate, at the heart of the questions that they're asking me are, can I thrive here? Can I have a successful career in this city, in this firm, in this environment? They are looking to see if there are individuals who have who've been able to thrive. I got a cold call from a young lady just last week who grew up in Alabama, but went to law school in Chicago, started her career in Chicago, and was looking to move back home. And as a part of her search, she went on law firm websites and started counting the number of diverse faces that she saw. And she cold called me to ask me about my experience. And in addition to that, she was single. And so lots of single folks ask me where to meet other single people. So I have to direct those questions elsewhere. But at bottom line, at the heart of the questions that I get from diverse candidates are, can I thrive in this workplace and in this community?
We had a recruit, a couple, same-sex couple, and they were concerned about would they be accepted in Birmingham, and what would that look like? And so we do, we have quite a few Asian recruits who want to know, what is the population of your Asian community here? Do they participate in leadership of Birmingham? So we do have a lot of questions. A lot of them for us are, we want to feel connected in our community. We had a recruit who, she was African-American, coming for a very big job at UAB, was being recruited by so many people across the country. And she said, I want to meet leadership, people that are leaders in Birmingham who are African-American. And so we got together a cocktail party, and people were so generous and came out from all from different organizations and companies. And so she could feel what that would be for her. And she accepted the job. She absolutely loves it. But yes, we get questions that they're concerned about.
But it sounds like great jobs, because it sounds like you all are learning something about Birmingham too along the way, right? In terms
absolutely.
of its attributes and the concerns that people have. Let's talk pandemic and the Great Resignation and what that's done to your business, the challenges it's created, how you've operated.
Sure, I would say on the negative side, the Great Recession, particularly in law firms, and particularly in the corporate practice group, we've seen lots of movement. And so when people leave a law firm, that leaves gaps. And we have had to heavily recruit lateral candidates to fill those gaps. On the positive side, we have seen our work environment evolve, where people are more open-minded to flexible work arrangements and remote work, which is not something that Maynard Cooper and Gail would have been open to pre-pandemic. We have seen the compensation market increase because people can work remotely for larger firms, but be at home and get paid, out of market rates. The compensation in our market has increased, and so our associates have really appreciated that as a positive impact of the pandemic.
And I think it's allowed us to be very introspective about who we really are, because we weren't able to sell ourselves face to face. So we had to really look and say, who are we as a firm? What is our culture? What is our vision? And if we want to communicate that to, all of these recruits, both lateral and law students, we have to define that and put it in writing and really convey it. So I think it has allowed us to be a more cohesive culture and firm-wide.
Right. Yeah.
We hired a production company and we put together 6 films of Birmingham's, short film clips. And instead of sending them to the recruits, we Zoomed with them and we talked them through what they were looking at in Birmingham so they could try to envision, instead of just seeing a film clip cold with some music behind it and have feel like a personal touch. We increased the gifts that we sent to them that had something to do directly with what they were interested in. And then we could have sort of conversations about what their interest is here in Birmingham that we would have here as well. So we went for a while there, a fairly, remote using Zoom platform, but we still had recruits all through the pandemic.
Mhm.
We were really fairly busy. I mean, we hired 3 new people during the pandemic because we were busy.
Right.
So,
yeah. But you and I were talking as we were planning this, and you shared some statistics. I think we've got.
yeah,
You
right.
brought some slides for show and
So
tell. here.
we wanted to talk about, everyone talks about the lack of talent. And people say, where is the talent? What has happened to them? So we thought that it would be a good idea if we put some perspective about where, some numbers behind it. If you look at the millennials versus Gen Z, you have 72 million people in the millennial generation, but you drop down 5 million people for the Gen Z. So right then and there, you have lost 5 million workers, potential workers in this generation.
And if you have trouble seeing that, millennials is on the left side. Gen Z is
Right.
on the right.
Millennials is over here. Gen Z is on the right. So we lost 5 million. We have stopped replacing our population since 2007. Since then, we have not been able to, we're losing every time. We're not replacing what we need. And then if you look at the second slide, if you look at the Great Resignation or the reshuffle, as people want to talk about, they all think it's young people that have moved. Where is the people at Starbucks? These young people have moved around. Well, actually, 2/3 of the people that reshuffled were over the age of 55, and half of them have decided not to return to the workplace. So we have lost millions of workers that were valued with a lot of institutional knowledge, and we have lost all of them. On top of the fact that our next generation coming up is much less. So if you look at the third slide and read this about Gen Z, it's important when you put parameters around recruiting for this next generation for Gen Z. They're different in every way than we have had in history. And so companies need to understand how they are different and what they expect so that you can recruit effectively.
Right.
Because it's very different. They care about their brands. They want to know if the company that makes their soft drink cares about their community or if they are diverse. They are looking at, when they are interviewing, they're looking at what does this company do and support for their diverse employees? What does this company do to support diversity in their community? And this is a cultural shift, but it will be very important for us to all understand the dynamics of this next generation.
Right. And it sounds like you all have experienced that surely in your recruiting of law students and pre-law students as well. Yeah.
Yes, there was a recent TikTok video. I'm not on TikTok. Somebody shared this with me. But there was a young woman, and it said recruiting in 2009 versus 2019. Have any of y'all seen that? In 2009, there's like this classical music playing in the background, and the young woman says, "Yes, I'll do it. I'll work for free. Whatever you need me to do, I'll come work at your firm." And then in 2019, there's like rap music in the background. "I want money. I want money." And she says, "Yes, I'll come work for you, but first I need $100,000 and a pony." It was a funny way of communicating,
Yeah.
though, that expectations are different for different generations and different individuals. That was a recent TikTok that was shared about how generationally we are having to recruit and retain talent very differently.
We have a diversity scholarship, and we've had it for about 12 years, and it's been interesting over time to see how open this generation is about who they are, how they identify. We have, 150 applicants, and we have transgender students, gay students, of all different ethnicities and non-binary. And so it's been really eye-opening for us to say, who are we, and are we accepting of every person who is applying with us as a law firm? And so I think that we've had to do some thinking on where do we stand on some of these issues and some of these political issues that have come up. And so it's been great to see over time how the diversity scholarship, how many more students we're getting from all over the country who want to be in Birmingham.
Right. Let's talk about the one that got away. Have you got an example of a recruit that you just thought you just sort of nailed it and didn't come to Alabama, or someone who came and the company couldn't retain them? Can you share an anecdote or two?
Can you have a good one? Yeah, go ahead. I'll follow you.
We have had a couple of examples come to mind. One is brown-skinned young woman whose girlfriend has gotten a job offer in DC. And so she is leaving to go to DC to be in an environment where she feels like she will better belong and have a sense of belonging. We recently had a senior associate who was invested in the firm, and the firm was invested in him, but he had the opportunity to stay at home in Birmingham near his family, but work remotely for a larger firm in a larger market and get paid more money. And so those are challenges that we are seeing. So there's not a one that got away. And what we're learning is that people are attracted to our firm and to our city for different reasons. And people leave for different reasons. And one of the things that I like to ask people in interviews is what motivates you to do your best work? What motivates you to be successful? And it's when we are able to address these individual concerns that we are able to better recruit and to better retain talent. We conduct exit interviews to hear why our folks leave the firm, so that we can better address those issues to the extent they're broader issues that we don't know about. And so what we're saying is that people, again, come for different reasons and leave for different reasons. And we're doing our best to address those on an individualized basis.
We had a recruit who had accepted the job and was had a 2-year-old, younger couple, dual, and they made it very clear with us that they were going to live downtown. They were not going to live in the suburbs. So we planned our whole day. We had a day and a half with them about what that would look like. But the person taking them around to the interviews said, "Oh my gosh, you don't want to live downtown. It's not safe down there. I live in Homewood. I love Homewood. You need to live in Homewood. Tell the chocolate group, don't even show you downtown." That's what I did. Well, by the time we got them and they started asking questions of people that were interviewing them about, "Do you live downtown? Do you live downtown?" And the answer kept being no. The time we got them, they said, "No, we clearly are not, it's it's not preferable to live downtown, and that's our lifestyle and what we want. And so that's why we talk to people that we are working with that are have these recruits. We talk to our clients about not sharing your personal story. It is important for you to listen to what your recruit cares about and not to always share your personal story or have them think, you know, a lot of times we start talking about something in Birmingham and they don't really even care about that. They don't hike. I don't hike. I don't want to hear about the hiking. But if we listen to what they're telling us, and then you can address it. We also, unfortunately, had a recruit who left. A law had changed in Alabama a couple of years ago, and they were in the process of moving. And 2 hours after the law changed, they withdrew. And so, you know, you get people that will, you know, will draw. We don't really have that many actually to give an example of, but those are two.
But this, we're talking about culture wars, kinds of issues that can create a headwind for in this effort to recruit people here.
Right. You know, people that are coming here have maybe coming from San Francisco or New York or Boston or larger cities. And so they're accustomed to having, you know, they care about, they do care politically what the politics are. And some of the laws actually in healthcare affect their jobs. So they do care about those things.
Right.
So,
yeah. I'm going to ask you one more question and then we'll open it up because I'm sure they have better questions than I've given you, but you've landed the big fish and I'm sure you've all had great successes in your recruiting efforts. Let's talk about what happens after that, retention, and what's important for us to know, business leaders to know about keeping good people here and onboarding them, those kinds of things.
I think immediate integration into whether it's the junior board of the museum or, you know, whatever the junior league, whatever we can do to get people ingrained in our communities. There's so many different opportunities, no matter what you're interested in. And we have so many ways to really get people in these positions. So I think that is just the number one thing, to feel like they didn't just come for a job, but came for a life, and to build a life and to build family or whatever. I think that is just terribly important to retention.
absolutely. Yeah. It's at Chalker, it's what we spend so much of our time on. We may work with a recruit and their family for 2 months or 2 years. So we circle back and we always make sure that our recruits are still in a good place and their lives shift and change, and do they need some assistance in some way. But the same that Rebecca said, it is about getting them connected and getting them involved, finding children in their grade of their 10-year-old son who's coming here, trying to get some kids together in the beginning so they don't go to school the first day. It's all those things that are super important. And if you want your retention to go smoothly, those first couple of months can make all the difference in the world.
I agree with all of that. Onboarding and integration are critically important. I recently heard a presenter describe choreographed connections, and I like that term. That it's important that when people show up, they've got a computer, they've got their telephone, they've got the technology and the resources to be able to do their jobs. But we also want to choreograph connections with the right people in the organization, regardless of whether that's the person they're going to be working with. Is that somebody that they're going to like, that they want to hang out with? And so being sure that we're choreographing those connections, as well as you mentioned, Rebecca, connections within the community.
Thank you all, Stephanie, Barbara. It's been great, and I'll open